Sam, I am so excited to have you here on this podcast today. We have already been chatting it up. My audience has no idea who you are, but you are getting ready to tell them. So why don't we just start at the beginning? Give the people a rundown of who exactly is visiting us on Worth Listening today.
Definitely. Well, this will be worth everyone's time, right? Has anyone else used that joke? No one's used. Okay, cool. This will be worth everybody's time. My name is Sam Acho. I played 9 years in the NFL. So I played for the Arizona Cardinals, Chicago Bears, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. My last year was the year right before COVID. I'm an ESPN college football and NFL analyst, author of a couple books, the most recent one being Let the World See You, How to Be Real in a World Full of Fakes. And I love people and love bringing people together and love sharing my story, listening to people's stories, and just being me.
Okay, I like it. You ran through the whole spiel pretty quickly. We got to go all the way back to the beginning because this podcast is all about telling your money memoir. So back to the beginning. Where are you from? How did you grow up? What did your parents do? What is your first memory of money? Like, take us way back.
No, that's really good. Yeah. So I was born and raised in Dallas, Texas. But interestingly enough, my parents were born and raised in Nigeria, in a couple of different villages in Nigeria. And so the way I put it, I was raised in a Nigerian household. You know what I mean? So like, it wasn't like, it was like, the accent, the food, the smells, all of it. But even more so, every Christmas, we would go back to Nigeria and visit friends and family. And there was a stark difference in kind of the growing up I had here and what I saw back home. See, back home in Nigeria, my dad had this goal or dream or vision of like building this big old house, like a compound, like this big place where everyone could call home, which sounded good. But the reality of what we saw was like a hut. Like my grandma, no, straight up, like my grandma used to live in a hut. And so when I was first, like so much so where like there was like one little like string for a light bulb in the entire house. There was, if you wanted to use a bathroom, like there was no bathroom. You just go outside, like it was a little like
hole in the ground.
Hole in the ground. And that's what it was. And so coming from there back to, the States, to America, and kind of my parents kind of went back to school, both became doctors, all that kind of stuff. So seeing, oh, wow, like we moved into a bigger house and we have a nice car and all these things. There was always just this stark difference to what like being okay was, like wealth wise, and also what struggling was. If I could even just add one more layer to it, I went to a school called St. Mark's School of Texas. It's like the number one rated private school in the nation. Senators' kids go to that school, right? People who, like rich people go to that school. But the church I went to was in South Oak Cliff, which a lot of people might have said, at least back then, was the hood. And so like driving through those neighborhoods, I just saw just these stark differences all throughout my life. And so there was always this, like there was never this idea of, man, I have too much or too little. I just knew that what one person sees in their reality is different than someone else's.
Ooh, how do you think that kind of manifested itself into your adult lifestyle and how you think about money and things like that now, seeing all those different sorts of things growing up?
Yeah, well, growing up personally, I never like, I think people have different personality types, right? Because I never worried about money. And mind you, you might say, well, because you grew up in this and that, but like I have friends and siblings, whatever, who they see money differently than I do. So like I always knew, okay, I'll be okay. We went to Payless. I didn't think twice about it. Well, getting the shoes, I didn't think, or we might get it like a nice jacket. I am like a conservative person when it comes to like spending. Mm-hmm. So I'm more of like a saver. And so my first money memories, I didn't have too many stresses of like, oh, like I said, like I got 3 siblings. So 4 of us, mom and dad, boom, boom, boom. Like we go to Payless, didn't think anything of it. Right. But also like we might drive in a nice like Lexus or whatever. So anyways, my view of money or even like wealth, I just didn't really think twice about it. I just knew that there's a different reality back somewhere else, like in Nigeria, that a lot of people don't talk about. And so I don't really have any room or reason to complain.
So I mean, I love all of that. Like, it sounds like you're very like well-rounded in the midst of like what you experience. It's like I saw people who struggle. I saw people who had a lot. I bought shoes from Payless, but also I went to a private school. So you were kind of well-rounded in the sense that like none of these things mattered in the sense of people have versus have not. It was just like you were in a loved environment overall growing up. Is that kind of accurate in the way I'm describing it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And like I saw the people like when I was 16, like my classmates, I saw them like get a brand new car when they turned 16.
Right.
Like brand new, like BMW or whatever kind of the nicest car was. And I didn't get that. You know what I mean? I got like my sister's kind of hand me down like a Honda CRV, right? You know what I mean? And I know my parents probably could have gotten me one if that makes any sense, but I didn't make sense for them to do that. But I've also saw, like I said, like going to Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship and like being on being like, okay, like there's differences here, and so, and I also noticed that like one isn't better than the other in so many ways. For example, I remember being probably 10, 11 years old and waiting to get picked up from school one day. And this one little white kid like called his mom not from his cell phone, like from the school phone, right? He didn't have a phone yet. And I remember him being like, "Mom, hurry up. Where are you? Like, come and pick me up." And I'm like, first of all, like, you can say that and you're still going to be alive right now?
Right.
But then also I was like, man, let me go and
turned into dust.
I would have been, like my parents like, I will kill you. I'm like, you're going to kill me? You know what I mean? So like, so I remember like, and these people were wealthy, but it was like, man, more access to like, whether it be drugs, like at some of these schools, whether it be just like pride and ego. I just noticed that wealth or money ain't really solving people's problems. I noticed people in Nigeria had more peace than rich people in America. Some of the poor people, there's rich people in Nigeria too, but some of the people in those villages have more peace than some of the people in the private schools.
Ooh, I love that. It was a bar. Yeah. Wealth is not solving problems here. It is better to have peace. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, let's go to your first job. When did you start to earn money? What was that like?
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, are we including allowance? Like, okay, you go, mow the lawn, wash it, mop the floor.
No wrong answers here. What did you do to earn money?
All right, cool.
Tell us so the first childhood hustles and what you feel like was your first legit job.
Perfect. So childhood hustles, like, chores. It was like, man, go mow the lawn or go like, mop the floor. That was like my thing on Saturdays would be like the day everybody's cleaning. And so like some people do the dishes, some people sweep. I love like the mopping just because I don't know why. It was fun. And I think maybe we got a dollar or two, like nothing crazy, but it was like, you might get a little dollar or two for what you did. But the real job I remember doing was my parents had started a home health agency. And maybe I was 14 or 12 or 15 or something. And they would have me go there and just like file stuff, right? You see somebody's name, file it in the right cabinet or go and like adjust different. We had filing cabinets back then. It wasn't like, everything went online. And like, apparently they told me like I would get a check. I didn't ever saw this check. I didn't see this money, but they're like, yeah, you're getting this check. So like for me, once again, it just went back to like, man, it was good work. It was good to do work. I didn't necessarily care about the money that I got because even though I got the money, I wasn't spending it. Even fast forward to college, I went to the University of Texas and was on a football scholarship, and we got, stipends, right? Monthly stipends. I don't know if it was a couple $100, nothing crazy, like enough to eat. And if we got like a $300 stipend, you use, I don't know, 100 of it or so for food. And I would try to save the rest. Some people will go and buy clothes or go and do whatever. I'm like, what do I need clothes for? I'm gonna use my football gear. You know what I mean? They give us free gear at the football facility. I'm wearing my stuff. I wanted to save that. And so
what were you saving for at that time? Like,
nothing.
Remember, like,
I don't know. No, I just knew that I didn't want to spend it. I didn't know what I wasn't saving for anything. I didn't have college debt that I wasn't thinking about what I need to go and buy, nor what do I need to go pay off. I just knew I didn't want to spend it. And there's some good and there's some bad in that, right? Because even now, like I'm learning there's good things to spend money on, right? I play in the NFL and sign, multi-year contracts, right? Like sometimes multi-million-dollar contracts. And still it's like, oh, I don't really want to spend this, because it's like, what are you saving for? Right? I need to learn how to use, I need to learn that money is just a tool to accomplish whatever your goals are. So like, if I learn how to like use money for what it's worth, no pun intended, use money for what it's worth, I think I probably would have a better relationship with money. Just because I'm a saver doesn't mean I'm like better off than other people, right? I see people who spend it and spend it wisely. So.
Ooh, I love that. That was definitely a bar there. So often we talk about there's narratives in the world about people who spend too much. It's, all about like people that have debt and too much credit and too much credit cards and all these sorts of things, and the consume. And that definitely is something that some people struggle with, but there are people out there, and I don't think we speak to them often enough, that are kind of extreme savers. And it's like you said, what are you saving for? And that is something that, helping people work through that, understanding money in a way that's like, okay, this is a tool that can allow me to live the life I want. And while saving is prudent, I don't need to, be so frugal that I am sacrificing or that I'm not enjoying life because of it. So, yeah.
One of the things I will say too, that that was instilled in me too, was the idea of giving as well. So like, I wouldn't, like, let's say, even whether it be like tithes, like, okay, I'm gonna give 10% to church, or even just giving to people less fortunate. Like, that was also instilled, because I do believe that like when you give, it's given to you, right? Even that's a biblical principle. Give, it'll be given to you, pressed down, shaken together, running over. So like, I've seen it too many times that when I give, all of a sudden I get back. And so like, out of that let's say I got $300, right? 100 might go to food. I might give $30 or $50 for church or tithe or whatever. And then I would save, the rest for what I don't know. Right now, what I will say is, after about 4 years of saving, there's a trip I wanted to take. And yes. And I finally had some money to take the trip. My friends were doing a study abroad in Hong Kong, and I couldn't do it because I was playing football. And I was in the business honors program. I was a business honors marketing major. I won the academic Heisman Trophy, right? So I was like with class with smart people. And I couldn't go on this trip. Well, my friend said, hey, I'm doing like a birthday party and all the friends are there. Can you do it? And so I asked my mom and dad, like, hey, what do you think? Right. And also I didn't ask my coach, but I had like a 5-day window between the end of summer workouts and the beginning of, or the end of spring workouts and the beginning of the fall. And so I used that money that I'd saved up to buy my flight to go to Hong Kong. Now, mind you, I didn't get a hotel out there. I snuck into the dorm that my homie was staying at. But it was just fun to be able to have money to buy something, to be able to do the thing I wanted to do. That was fun.
I love that you were able to do something like that, and to be able to like think about like, okay, I've saved. I didn't really know what I was saving for, but here's this opportunity, and I actually have money set aside so that I can go ahead and live the life that I want.
Yeah. And I haven't really told that story because I never really thought about it in that way, but it was really special, because let's say I had the free time from football, and let's say, like I said, I kind of ran it by my parents, just like, what do y'all think or whatever. But let's say like I had all the permissions or whatever, and I didn't have the finances. I would have had to ask somebody or get a loan or something. And it was just cool to be able to be like, oh, wow, like I didn't know what I was saving this for, but this is it. And that was a really fun experience.
I mean, can you talk a little bit about the idea of like investing in yourself? Because I kind of think of it as that you could have bought some really nice sneakers. You could have, done something a little bit different, but it sounds like you saw some value in being able to go experience another part of the world. Like you said, you wanted to do the study abroad program. You mentioned it, even though it wasn't available to you via football. So can you just talk about like how you've thought about investing in yourself over the course of your life up to this point?
Yeah, well, I just love people. And so like my thing is like, if I can invest in people, I feel like sometimes they'll invest in me. And so for me, spending that money to go be with my people, like these are like my 5 best friends. One was from Bulgaria. His name was Kauyan Haramliski. Another one was Tanya Ruiz Galindo. She's Mexican. It was her birthday we were celebrating. Another, I think Caitlin Kennedy, who's from East Texas, was there. Like all these different kind of people. Rahul Ramakrishnan, right? Like from India. All that was like, those are my people. And so to be able to invest in my people and with my people brought me life. And so like for those people who don't, let's say you don't have a lot of money or you don't, you're out of debt or whatever, wealth for me is in people. Like part of what I do now, I work with a family office called AWM, Athlete Wealth Management. Like my title is like Director of Human Capital, right? I.e. like I invest in people because you can't put a price tag on that. There's so many people I've gotten a chance to hang out with. There's a verse in the Bible that says a man's gift will make room for him and put him in the presence of kings or the presence of the great. Like my gift, whether it be football or speaking, right? I love speaking or writing. Like it's gotten me access to people. So like I've, hung out with a couple of different former presidents. The chairman of the Chicago Bears, I consider a friend of mine. The commissioner of the NFL, Roger Goodell, like a friend of mine. I'll text him right now and like we could talk on the phone. People. And I think that's where a lot of my wealth lies. So what I would say, you talked about like leveraging your gifts or your skills, your ability. What I would say is find those things that you really excel at. And yes, you might be able to monetize those things. But there's something greater that I don't think money can, like money may not, the money you get for it may not always match. It's having people. I do this weekly like Bible study thing with some friends, and I share with them. I work for ESPN. I told you, and I played in the NFL and all these things. I'm married, got 3 kids. But like that week, that hour that we do on Zoom with my people is the highlight of my week. And so, and then there's that. And then lastly, I know I'm talking a lot, but that's why you brought me on here. Then lastly too, like I mentioned briefly, but like I've been married for 8 years, have 3 kids. And like the fact that I have peace in my marriage, I think that's wealth. The fact that I have a relationship with my kids, I think that's wealth. And you cannot put a price tag on that. I've seen too many people make all the money in the world. Like I'm talking about like the weekly checks are $1 million plus and be miserable. Les Miserables, like miserable. And I've seen people in villages in Nigeria with no more than like a t-shirt to their name and some shorts and have more joy than I could ever imagine. I met a kid the first time my family do medical mission work in Nigeria. So we helped open up a hospital in Nigeria called Living Hope. The ministry is called Living Hope Ministries, but hospital is called Living Hope Medical Center. And I remember going with my parents. I was 15 years old when I first went on this trip and meeting this kid who looked like he was 9 or 10, super skinny, had just, like I said, like a little tank top on, some dingy shorts and some, like some sandals that you could tell he'd been wearing probably every day the last few months. And like look malnourished, all the stuff, And I'm talking, I'm like, hey man, what's your name? We're talking about like soccer or football as they call it, and about life. And I'm like, hey man, like, what's your name? He said, my name is Samuel, which like my name is Samuel. And I'm like, okay, interesting. I said, how old are you? Right. He looked like he was 9 or 10, whatever. He said, I'm 15.
Oh no.
And I'm sitting here like, I came to that place we talked and you would think that like, oh, this guy's miserable. This dude was laughing, smiling, joy, free, like not a care in the world. And I kind of was you could say normal 15-year-old, stresses, worries, thinking about like acne and you know what I mean? Like thinking about like girls and like, and this dude was just free. And that was one of the moments where I realized that, man, money might help, but I want the freedom that this guy has.
Yeah, I love it. And it's so important that we define wealth for ourselves. And I think that's exactly what you're doing. You're talking about, wealth being family, wealth being investing in other people. Money, as you mentioned earlier, is a tool to help you live the life that you want. But it's like, what is that wealth thing for you, and how to use money as a tool to help you live that kind of wealthy lifestyle? Wealth is not the actual collection of the dollars and the cents. It is, your fitness. It is your health. It is the time spent with others. It is, the giving that you are able to do. so many people have so many different ways that they are passionate about creating a life that and investing in other people in some sort, form, or fashion, that is the true definition of wealth, not so much the gather all the assets, gather all the funds, do all these things with money. We just got to figure out how to use money as a tool. So I love it. I love everything you've been saying.
Can I ask you a question?
Uh-oh. So let me just tell you guys for a second. Before Sam asked me this question, Sam has a podcast. In addition, he's already mentioned to you all that he's a media personality. So I'm not really surprised that he's trying to take over the podcast here. I know he's jonesing a little bit, but come on, Sam, give me the question. I'm ready.
I don't need to take over. If it's taking over, I can back out. I'll give you the,
Nope. Come on, bring it.
So Lauren, 4-time Olympic medalist. Right? Is it Olympic gold or just Olympic medalist?
4-time gold medal? Gold and 2 silver medals.
Okay. So 3-time medalist.
3-time medalist, 4-time Olympian.
4-time Olympian, 3 times. So she said, get it right. You've traveled around the world. You've won gold medals. What is wealth to you?
I knew this is where this was going. I'm prepared for you, Sam. I find wealth in experiences. I think it's similar to finding wealth in people in the way that you do, because the interaction with people is a part of the experience. But for me, it's experiencing a new culture. It's experiencing a new point of view by meeting a new person. It is experiencing a new food, and therefore something outside of the box of what I've previously experienced, and being open to the idea that, like, this could be awesome or it could taste yucky. But really being able to experience new things and allowing others to experience new things is what brings me a lot of joy. My sister just recently came and visited Dallas, and she's from a smaller town, Fayetteville, North Carolina. And she just had so many new experiences. It was just like a kid in a candy store. And it was like, we didn't do anything that was ridiculous or, you know what I mean? Like that was like astounding in the sense of, people go on vacation to come do these 10 things. We covered none of those. We covered some really basic ground, and enjoyed some really cool, these are the things I do when I'm in here as a local. And when I tell you her mind was blown and she got to just experience all these new, I know that there's value in people having various new experiences.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I have a follow-up, but I'm not going to ask because it's not my podcast.
All right, last one. Ask me the question.
Okay. What if you value experiences, but you don't have the money to be able to pull it off, to be able to afford to go on the experience or to go on the trip or to, do the whatever thing that you do consider wealth as? Man, I consider this wealth to go. I want to go to travel to Hong Kong or somewhere, or I want to go and, whatever, but you don't have the money. What then?
Well, you create wealth. Well, let me slow down. I would say that you should think about how you can earn the money to be able to do that thing, because it is sometimes necessary to be able to fully experience something, to have the funds to invest in it. But there's also tons of different things that you can do nowadays where, going to the internet. Don't have internet at home, going to the library, picking up a book. You and I were both talking about being avid readers and really enjoying reading. You can experience things through the eyes of others that are bringing things to you. Definitely the best when you experience it yourself. But it's really about thinking about, like, what choices am I willing to make? I don't like the word sacrifice. What choices am I willing to make in order to be able to have this experience? You don't have to be rich to be able to travel to Hong Kong or, leave the country. Maybe you don't have someone around you who's done something like that. And so you're not really familiar with what it takes to have that experience. But the first step would be to do some research, and research is relatively cheap. And most of the time it's going to be free, in order to figure out how can I make this idea that I have becoming a reality so that I can go out and have this experience.
Nice. I have a third. I'm not going to ask. I'm not going
to
ask. I'm going to ask.
The Sam podcast, everyone. Back to you. I want to know about your spouse. So you mentioned being married for 8 years, having 3 children. I would love to know a little bit about how you speak to your spouse about money and how you're speaking to your children about money and teaching them and communicating about those things.
You want to know about my spouse? You want to know about how we talk about money? It's two different conversations.
Mesh the two together. Bring your spouse into the conversation, introduce them to the audience, and also share specifically about how you are interacting together and organizing your finances together.
Okay, great. So my wife, her name is Ngozi, and she's from Nigeria. And Ngozi means blessing. And I mentioned how I grew up in Dallas and parents, doctors, all this kind of stuff. But my wife grew up with 5 siblings. Her dad had died when she was like 2. So it was just her mom and the 6 kids. And in that culture, once her dad had died, like the dad was like the primary, breadwinner. And all of a sudden, like single mom with 6 kids, we need some help. Mm-hmm. And so she actually grew up, her and she has a twin brother. They actually stayed with their aunt. Like all the different kids grew up in Nigeria, different places, just who can help. I tell that whole story to say that her experience, at least growing up, was different than mine. She's almost like, remember those kids that said they had the peace and the joy and the freedom, right? They had that. But when we got married, so we got married and she came to America and, I'm in the NFL at this point and all the things. And we do view money differently. I never really thought about money. I'm like, yeah, if it'll come, great. Like I was fortunate enough to, to play in the NFL and get a scholarship to college and not have, student debt. And though she didn't have that going to school in Nigeria, she also understands what real poverty looks like at a deep level. And she doesn't want to go back there. And part of the reason why, she works so hard and we work so hard, or I work so hard, is so there's this idea of like, not even that we don't want to go back there. I feel like that's a fear mindset, but I think it's more, she doesn't want to, it's more, she told me this story of how when she was young, she didn't have a lot of clothes to wear or food to eat. So she would pray that God would provide food for her family. Like they didn't have any food to eat. And, all of a sudden, like somebody would come knocking on the door. Hey, I don't know why, but I feel like I need to pick up food. I want to drop this off for you guys. And it was like, oh, wow, we have dinner. Christmas would come around. And that was like, that was an often time occurrence. Christmas would come around and, everybody's getting all these gifts and stuff. And, she didn't have clothes. They didn't have clothes. And so she would pray that God would man, I want like a dress or clothes or something, for Christmas, but they didn't have any money. Well, next thing you know, a couple days before, somebody would knock and hey, I don't know why I want to drop off these clothes. Well, she always had the desire to want to be able to do that for other people. Like I want to be able to give people clothes or food or, something. There was was it a well or something, like a church that was being built in her village. Remember, we're talking huts and stuff. Mm-hmm. And they were it's a small little church. I'm like, hey, if we could do some offering, we're trying to help build this church. And she had something the equivalent of 5 naira, which is equivalent of like a penny. Mm. And she gave it, and thinking that it would do, I want to help build this thing. And obviously it was like a drop in the bucket. But there was a time she said to us, herself, I'm going to go build a church. I'm going to make enough or have enough where I can go build a church or I can give out clothes. And so her view is let's make as much as possible so that we can give it away, so that we can help. She's doing some business stuff in Nigeria, helping not only provide jobs, but also provide a clothing business. We've built churches in some of those villages in Nigeria. She loves to cook. So food is her thing now. And so she has if I could say one thing to anybody listening, it would be like the depth of your, don't let the depth of your pain be a deterrent to your future.
Mm.
In fact, let the depth of your pain be the beginning of your destination. That pain will drive you to go further than you ever thought you could go and do more than you ever thought you could do. But don't let it stop there. Don't let that driver always be pain. Turn it into something brighter, turn it into something better. You know, like there was a time where she could have said, you know what, because I didn't have this, I'm going to go and, you know, I'm never going to be poor, never going to go back there. But something changed. It changed from that to, you know what, like God opened up some crazy doors in our lives. So let's be a blessing. Even though like I used to hurt for food or for clothes, now not only am I going to provide for myself, I'm going to provide for those around me. My book, like Let the World See You, How to Be Real in a World Full of Fakes. Kind of the whole premise is like when you're you, three things happen. I believe that God gets the glory, the people around you benefit, and the world around you thrives. And so like my wife at her core is a blessing. Ngazi, the name means blessing, and a giver at her core, as am I. But if we try to act differently, God wouldn't get the glory, the people around us would not benefit, and the world around us would not thrive. And we are seeing our family thrive, and there's ups and downs and everything, but we're seeing our family thrive. We're seeing those around us thrive, and we're seeing the world thrive. Like I said, hospitals that we've built in Nigeria, churches, jobs that we're helping provide. So there's pain, but you can always turn that into purpose, even when it comes to your financial story or your wealth or your money story.
Yeah, that is a word. So many people have gone through so much financially, and I think that is the thing that sometimes holds people back from being able to really accomplish whatever it is that is their full potential, is being beat down by something along the way. Gosh, this was the thing that just kind of like was the straw that broke the camel's back. I can't go on. Can you speak to some sort of financial setback that you had and how you overcame it?
Yeah, so in 2018, I kind of accomplished my goals, at least what people thought. I was going on my 8th year in the NFL, and I had like reached a high point. I had become the star. I had reached my dreams, and then I'd gotten that big contract. Everybody, I'd been on like minimum, NFL minimum, veteran minimum deals. I'd gotten that big contract. And the reason I say this is a low point is because after I got that contract, I was empty. After I got that, like, it was like, oh, you finally signed a multi-year deal, right? A multi-million-dollar deal. I was less happy then than I was before. And that was a major low point in my life, because not only did I realize, man, I've been chasing the wrong thing, but I'm also realizing everybody else is too. You know what I mean? Like everybody else is too. And so it was a hard time because I didn't really know what to do with that money, how to handle it, right? It wasn't like I made bad investments or whatever, but it was just like, I saw it and I was still like, empty. And that story is not unique to me. You know what I mean? Like money ain't gonna solve nobody's problems. A mentor, a guy who had played before me, told me that, hey, money is just a magnifier. It just magnifies what you were doing before. If you were spending a lot before, you're going to spend a lot with more money. If you were a giver before, you're going to give more. And so the reason why, getting like that, the big contract was a low point, was that I realized that there's got to be something more, which ended up turning into a high point, because I realized, oh, wow, like maybe there is more if I really start being who God made me to be.
There is more. There is absolutely more.
Yeah.
It sounds like you figured out that there was more along the way. So tell us a little bit about how you're organizing things now. What is kind of the basic outlay for how you're creating your financial plan for you and your family?
Yeah. There's a quote, and I read it the other day, and a lot of us know this quote. People talk about like being a jack of all trades, but a master of none. Yeah. Well, the interesting thing about that quote is that that's not the end of the quote. So the quote actually says, talking about you can be a jack of all trades, but a master of none is oftentimes better than a master of one. So a jack of all trades, but a master of none is oftentimes better than a master of one. People oftentimes talk about mastering your craft. What I've learned is like you could do multiple things. So I was playing in the NFL, but I started doing stuff on TV while I was playing. I went back and got my MBA while I was playing. I wrote this book that I actually got in front of me. I'm gonna show you. I wrote like my book while I was playing. I speak in the off season. So like it would have been, let me be careful as I say this. For me, it would have been foolish of me to just only dial in my entire focus on like one thing. Because what happens if that one thing is taken away? I'm going to be the best NFL linebacker. I'm going to go get all these sacks. What happens, like happened to me in 2013 when I get injured and I break my leg out for the season? Right. What then? Right. Well, by the grace of God, that's when I started going to do stuff. My friend of mine reached out. Once again, people, my wealth is in people. And a friend of mine told me, hey, Sam, like, I know this hurts. I know you're suffering. Don't waste your suffering. Suffer with the city. So what do you mean? Well, I was playing with the Arizona Cardinals at the time. He said, well, the city of Phoenix, there's people suffering all around, homeless shelters, hospitals. How about you suffer with the city? And I know you love being on TV. How about you call up a local news station and tell them to bring a camera? And so I did. And they did. And that broken leg, that pain turned into a weekly segment called Sam in the City that was on TV, where I would go to different, schools for kids with autism, or I'd go to homeless shelters or hospitals, or also do fun stuff like go to check out experiences like the Barrett Jackson Car Show or the Waste Management Phoenix Open, all these different kinds of the golf tournament, all these things and I found my love for talking, as listeners probably can tell by now, because I wasn't trying to master just one craft. Like, yeah. So I was really about to start going all the way in, but let me slow down. It's not my podcast. Like find the things that you're good at, but don't stop there. Like, don't stop there.
Don't stop exploring to see what other things you might be good at, because there's some things that are going to make themselves obvious to you, but there's some things that may not be as obvious. You're going to have to try to figure it out. You're going to have to work at it a little bit. I'm working at Spanish. I'm going to be good at Spanish. I'm very passionate about it, but it's not something that just popped up all of a sudden. It was like, oh, this is easy. Let me do it. I've been learning Spanish forever and ever and ever, but I'm not quitting. And I'm going to be really excited when I get to the end of the journey where I can have a conversation, because it's going to open up a whole new world of people that I can communicate with. So yeah, that speaks to me quite a bit. All right. We have made it to the end. We are in what we like to call the final sprint. So I'm going to rapid fire some questions at you. Rapid fire means you can't give me those long-winded answers.
I'm not conditioned for final sprint intervals. I don't do interval. I was shot put in discus, Lauren. I'm not trying to do no final sprints.
The football field is not that long. You have to run back and forth quite a bit. I mean, it is a little bit more conditioning. You're sprinting, doggone it. So get on the line. Let's go.
All right.
You got $20 in your pocket. What do you spend it on?
I'm not. I'm saving it.
All of it?
Yeah, I don't know what I could buy for $20 right now that I really want.
Okay, fair enough.
Save it till let me stack my bread.
Your worst money habit?
I sometimes give money away and don't think about it, and I don't think that's a good thing. Sometimes I'll be like, oh yeah, here you go. If I ever have cash on me, that's why I don't carry cash. If I just see somebody, I might just give it away. Which I don't think that's a good thing, right? Like sometimes it's like, hey, we got dinner. Like, you know what I mean? Like that money was for our dinner. That money was for this gift. Exactly. So I don't think that's a good habit.
God loves a cheerful giver, but you also need to be discerning in your giving. Right?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what we're hearing.
All right. Finish this sentence. That awkward financial moment when?
Man, when I wrote a big check to a family member and I didn't really want to do it.
That's an awkward moment. We're gonna leave that right there. Right. What about the best advice you've ever received?
Be you. Be you. Let the world see you. Be you. Period. And I hear that on TV. Still now, I hear that in everything. Be you.
I love it. Something you do for fun that doesn't cost anything.
Hang out with my kids. Play basketball.
Are you a good basketball player? No.
Why are you looking at me sideways? Hold on. If I would have been, let me not.
You would have been in the NBA if you were a good basketball player.
No. If I was just taller. If I was taller, why are you? First of all, do I need to defend myself? I would have been. I played in the NFL. Number one, I guarded DeAndre. Y'all know DeAndre Ayton. No, not DeAndre Ayton. Now I'm forgetting his name. Well, anyways, long story short, I could have played in the NFL if I was taller. Sure, DeAndre Jordan.
Okay, something athletes always say. I could have done all the sports. I just did this one.
I have scholarships.
Last but not least,
scholarships. There were D3 scholarships, man.
Last but not least, can you share with us one thing that you would like to improve about your finances in the upcoming year?
I'd like to be more disciplined in like my budget. I don't think about my budget or whatever. I'm like, man, I really feel like we should give this. I really think we should say, I want to be more disciplined. I think discipline would allow me the freedom to be able to do more or do more things or be able to say no quicker.
Ooh, I like it. So what's the action item to help you be more disciplined?
Are we sprinting? Are we doing action items right now, Mrs. Williams?
Just one action item. I'm holding you accountable.
Saying,
that's important here.
You didn't tell this. You didn't say this is part of the podcast. Yes. Okay, good. I want to be the best. That's how I get to the NBA. I think I'm going to start working with people who can help me be more disciplined in that. And also like even just committing to it, and that's not really the best way to put it. I'll have accountability, whether it's like through my wife or people I'm working with. It's like, hey, like, this is what we're going to do. Now I say that, but the truth is I don't have a great answer right now because I got to like think through, how I will actually be accountable. This is an issue, Lauren. We got to really,
can the people DM you and hold you accountable? Like they can find you on social media and be like, Sam, how are your goals going? What are you doing?
Anybody listening?
Have you made that plan yet?
No, y'all want to hit me up. Hit me up at the Sam Acho. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. No. I mean, even like the family office I'm working with too. Like they're helping me like think about discipline, think about like structure. Right, that's the thing I really need is structure. And so I think they're going to keep me accountable. But also, Lauren, you are welcome since you're trying to do sprints and stuff. Welcome to reach out. Anyone listening, hit me up and say, hey, how's that? That actually would be awesome. If you really, hey, are you actually being accountable with what you said you're going to do? That would be helpful. So I would appreciate that.
Well, you definitely can count on me. And my listeners are pretty trustworthy. So they're going to, what's the word? That's not the right word. My listeners are pretty, what's the word?
Aggressive. They're aggressive. They don't play around. They're
serious.
They're serious.
They're very. Yeah. Okay. And my listeners are pretty good at holding people accountable. So I'm sure you can count on them to slide in your DMs as well and make sure that you reach your goals. You have made it to the finish line. I'm going to give you a medal. That was not, the sprintiest sprint. That was more like an 800 meter type sprint. But sometimes people call it 800 sprint. So we're going to give you a medal. Here you go.
What kind of medal? What kind of medal is this?
I'm going to give you a gold medal. You won.
Hallelujah.
You're the only person in the race, though. So,
you know what? I have gold medal.
Put it on. You're standing on the podium. Go ahead. Shout yourself out. This is your time to shine. Where can we find you? How can we support you? What do you need from this community? Go.
I need a real medal. I need other people to compete against so I can really feel like I won. No. So anyways, go. So I'm Sam Acho. You can follow me at the Sam Acho, TheSamAcho. And also you can get my book. It's called Let the World See You, How to Be Real in a World Full of Fakes. It's on Amazon. You can also go to samachobook.com, learn more about me, learn about my story, and also about kind of the advice that I received about being you.
And of course, the book will be in the link in the show notes. So we're good to go there. Sam, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thanks, Lauren. I'm out of breath after that sprint, unfortunately.
Because you're just not made for sprinting. It's okay, though.
I was a shot putter. I had a school record. I'm done with you.
Till next time.
Oh, my gosh.